Hello YouTube fam, and welcome back to my channel. I've decided to share with you a recording of my masterclass, Mastering the Void and Becoming Empress of the Void, which is really for anyone who's going through a challenging time, for those who may find themselves in the void. And what the void is this space of being uninspired, and it's kind of just a space of blah. And the way that I describe it is between destruction and creation. So when something or your whole life has had that tower card moment where everything's come shattering down, life as you knew it is burnt down to the ground, and before you have that rebirth and you begin rebuilding your life, you're in the ashes of what your life used to be. And in that space, you don't know quite yet where you're going, and you're still mourning the past, and you can be moving through different emotions of sadness, excitement, or you may even be feeling numb. So this masterclass is from my membership program, Shakti Unbounded, where I give masterclasses and embodiment workshops every week. And if you are a sister or you identify as a sister, I would love to invite you into that membership program. You can go to Aranyani.com/unbounded or follow the link below. I decided to share this specific masterclass because currently I'm holding our live 21-day self-love challenge, which is totally free. You can also join us at the link below. Even if you're watching this in the future, you can take the course on your own, and that's 21 days of self-love practices, reflections, journal prompts, yoga poses, and a bunch more. And as we've been taking this journey together, I've been reading your feedback and your reasons why you've joined this journey, and many of us, as I'm in the same boat, are just finding yourself in the void or in this space of just feeling uninspired and not exactly sure of where you're going from here. And many of you have just gone through a big breakup, or you lost your job due to the pandemic, or other changes specifically from the pandemic, or whatever it may be in your life. We end up in this space when something we've identified with has been taken away, so that we have this loss of identity. Well, this perceived loss of identity. So I really hope that this masterclass supports you in whatever you're moving through. Again, it's for everyone. You can just ignore the Empress part, change it to Emperor if you'd like, and I just really hope that it supports you through this time. If it does, let me know in the comments. I would love to see. And the doors to Shakti Unbounded are open at the start of each season. As I post this video, our doors are open for the next week. And then we have our seasonal manifestation ceremony. If you're watching in the future when doors are closed, you can also join the wait list. Okay, loves, thank you for watching, and I really hope you enjoy this class. Okay, dropping in together. We'll just take a few deep breaths. Fully dropping into this moment, closing the eyes. Breathing deeply into the womb or the energetic womb. And just noticing how your energy is feeling in this moment. If you're just moving a little, noticing how it feels to just be alive in this moment now. And an audible exhale, releasing any tension with the exhale. Relaxing the jaw, opening the mouth. One more time, deep controlled inhale. Filling up the lower belly, expanding at the rib cage, opening at the heart. Maybe shaking a little. Okay, welcome sisters. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so excited for this class. We have our Empress of the Void class and Mastering the Void. So many of you shared that you're currently in the void. So if you're in the void, throw a capital V into the chat. I would love to know. I personally was in the void earlier this year, and It was my first time really being present with what was at the time. And that's where this has come from. And also, of course, we're in our Dhumavati month, and she represents the void, the smoky one, the space of darkness, but it's smoky. There's light shining through the darkness, and everything seems a little uncertain. V for sure. V just coming out of a long one. And with the pandemic and everything that was just happening on our planet too, collectively, we just went through this tower card moment where life as we knew it just came down, crashing down. Maybe for some it was more gradual, but for all of us, we were affected in some way where life as we knew it changed. And then we're kind of left at the other side of it, like, okay, so what's happening from here? What are we building from here? And, what life are we creating from here? So I'm just feeling each of you who are currently in it. I know how it feels, and I'm so happy to be able to support you through this time after my own experience with it. And how's everyone feeling? Just put it, while I do this, put in one word. What's the vibe today? What's the energy? Ready, hopeful, excited, neutral. Neutral is such void energy. Neutral and just in the energy of pure potentiality. It can go any way, and we are just surrendering it to it. Okay, beautiful, my loves. All right, so here we are, and let's just see chat so I can see if you ask me anything. All right. So welcome to our Mastering and Becoming Empress of the Void Masterclass. I've been so excited for this one. So first and foremost, what is the void? So considering many of you feel that you're in it at this time, that means you're familiar with what the void is. So I'm curious, what are some of your definitions of the void? Because of course it could be different for everyone depending on your experience with it. So if you want to put in the chat even just one little sentence of what is the void, how does it feel to be in this space? So neutral, I don't know what that is. And in between time, when you question everything and are releasing a lot from the past. Yes, exactly. In between and unsure. Yes. Okay, so exactly. We all have a similar definition to what the void is. The void is the space between creation and destruction. It's when we've identified with something in our lives that has then been taken away from us. So as I mentioned with the pandemic, many of us identified with our jobs, with our daily lives. And then when that was taken away, it's like, whoa, who am I now? And what am I doing? It could be a divorce, a big breakup. It could even just be working really hard to manifest something that didn't play out how you had envisioned. In between getting out of survival and creating. Yes, I love that. So we're in this space between the Tower card moment and the life that we want to create from there. And it's just like, as I say, being in the ashes. So life as you knew it, burnt down, it's gone now. And before you rebuild and rebirth yourself and have this comeback, you're just in the space of like, I don't really feel inspired right now. I feel, a little bit neutral, or I could be going through different emotions. So the void is a space you reach where things stop feeling good. And you've just had this identity ego loss. So something you identified with has now gone away. And you feel uninspired and unsure about the direction you're going from here. Fears may be coming up, self-doubt may be coming up. You begin questioning everything, yourself, your life, your purpose, and you're dancing between these emotions. Pain, pleasure, depression, like through it all. And maybe you just feel numb. That could be the void too. Or you could just be going through all of these as I share Tantra, of course, we're really trying our best to experience each emotion equally. So when pain comes, even asking yourself, can I find bliss within this pain? And it sounds a little bit crazy, and it is a little bit crazy because this existence is crazy, but we can find pleasure within even the most difficult moments. But if you're just feeling a numbness, that's okay too. So it's really surrendering and trusting that what is coming up for you at this time, there is a purpose to it, but you don't need to find that purpose right now. So just being very gentle with ourselves. So Shakti Unbounded, this program, was created while I was in the void, and I fully released control and surrendered. So some of you may know the story of the creation of Shakti Unbounded. It was right after a tower card moment for me. I had the Goddess app, this app that I invested over 100 grand into in like 4 years of my life. And unfortunately, the team that I had hired, the developers, were just not good. And I wasn't able to create the whole thing from scratch with a different team. So it was this huge moment for me where I was just holding on to something, to this dream, this vision that I had of what I wanted it to be, past its expiry date, and it was just causing me pain. And I realized that I was in this negative energy with the developers because they weren't able to give me what I really desired to make this vision become reality. So one day I woke up, I'm like, enough is enough, and I just ended the whole thing. Like, the app was gone that day, all of the content for it was gone that day. I just had I needed a completely new, clean slate. And it was the scariest thing I possibly could do, but I knew that it was necessary. And then where I was just so much energy into this thing. And it felt like a breakup. It did. I was crying, I was on my floor crying. My mom came in and she cried with me. It was like a huge breakup. And my healing from that was also similar to my healing from a breakup. So whatever it is, it's something that we've identified with. We've had this dream and it's been taken away. It's really in the space when we're in the void of when we completely surrender, that's when inspiration starts to come through. So I had completely surrendered to the moment, and I'm like, I don't even know what my main source of income is going to be after this. I don't know anything, but I'm just going to be fully present and trust. And then that's when this divine inspiration came through me for Shakti Unbounded, a couple other programs. And I was just like going hard on them, staying up all night because I had this deep inspiration. So surrendering and trusting is really the biggest part of this. And before moving out of the void and taking any big leaps, we must set the foundation and regulate our nervous systems to hold the space for any big changes, so we don't self-sabotage or go back to old patterns. This phase, being in the void, it can be hard because we're so used to doing things, to always be working towards things and always being inspired. And, we live in societies of just do culture, right? And hustle culture and all of this. We need to release the guilt of just being present and not doing anything, of just watching every season of the Vampire Diaries. That's what I do when I go through major life changes. I just want to curl up in a little ball, turn off my phone for a week, and watch the Vampire Diaries. So whatever your thing may be, it's releasing the guilt of I need to do something right now, and knowing that this chapter, this season of your life is so important as well. In the spiritual community, I've noticed, and just the self-help industry at this time, there's a lot of talk about the quantum leap. And basically the quantum leap comes after the space of the void. And this is a huge leap where, you can take it in your career, your personal life, you do something drastic, it's the big leap and it's incredible. But the thing that we really need to focus on when we're in the void is to really be present with what you're learning in the space and knowing that you don't have to change anything in this moment. So an example of this, the way that people talk about the quantum leap, all the time, it can actually be, not, I guess, dangerous in a way, but also if you're not fully ready for the leap and you haven't set your nervous system up for it, and you haven't set the foundation up for that leap, then you're going to end up going back into old patterns. And this is kind of similar to the example I gave in our money mindset workshop when I shared that 70% of people who win the lottery end up completely broke and bankrupt within 3 years. Why is that? It's because their nervous systems weren't ready for that leap of all of a sudden being a millionaire. They didn't have the foundation ready. And I've experienced this in my own life when I started my podcast. I released a book. I had my first $50,000 month, which was huge for me. It was just all of this stuff at once. And I was just coming out of the void. And really, it was coming from a space of two things: comparison, comparing myself to other people in the industry and panicking that I need to be doing so much. I need to be doing all of these things. The other thing is impatience. So comparison and impatience. These are two things that can get us out of the void, but then our nervous systems aren't ready, and it's likely that we're going to go into old patterns. And another example of this is if we are going through a heartbreak or we're going through changes, and then we jump to have this new relationship and put everything into it when we haven't spent the necessary time with ourselves to be present of what we learned from the old relationship and what we want to work on to better ourselves now. Like, I'm a really firm believer in spending time single. I've spent a lot of time single to really be present with myself and really mindful and intentional with my future relationships. So these are just a few examples, but anytime we're jumping and pushing past the void when we're not ready, that's when our nervous systems aren't like, okay, this happened too quick. Let's go back into a space that I feel safe. And sometimes safe isn't really like the best version of ourselves. It's not the space that's going to make us grow. So I hope all that made sense. And actually, before I really understood what the void was, I used to associate it with depression, because when I was younger, I experienced depression, mostly seasonal depression. Growing up in Canada, it was super, super cold where I'm from, and like so cold you can't even go for a walk outside. So I'd be indoors for months, and I would just become very depressed because I love being in nature. I'm an outdoors person, and I would just not want to do anything. So the void can feel like depression, feeling uninspired. Like it can feel like something's wrong with me because I don't feel inspired right now. But it's absolutely a necessary part of the different chapters of our lives. And of course, there comes a point where we do need to get out of the void, but really being present with what is. And like, for example, I just went through a little breakup. I was just seeing someone for a couple months, but it was kind of hard on me. It took me about 3 weeks of being really present with my heart and myself and just reflecting on how that relationship happened and what type of relationship I want from here and what I learned from the relationship. And yeah, just being very present with my heart's healing. Yeah, I was just going through this breakup and I wasn't pushing it. And I'm sharing this in our self-love challenge right now too, that currently I'm with family and around people I grew up with back in Canada, which I'm usually around people that are very used to this work, being very present with what is and honoring all our emotions. But as we know, in regular society, if we want to call it that, there's a lot of shame around feeling certain things. And as I needed a full 3 weeks to get over this relationship, to be like really present and healing with it, I had comments like from my family that would say, oh, how are you not over him? Like, he's not worth your time. You need to get out of this phase. And it didn't feel good for me because I wanted to honor everything that had just happened and honor my heart's healing and the time that it takes to, for me to heal and be in my power and then to get up and conquer the motherfucking world again. But I'm not going to push myself to that. And I kind of felt this pressure from people. I'm like, that doesn't feel good, because what feels good for me is being really present with my healing so that I'm not just going out and socializing again and pushing it down. As we know, it's not healthy to push our emotions down. I give the analogy of a beach ball. When we're pushing it under the water, it's going to explode the more that we push it down. right? That's not how we heal. That's not how we reclaim our power. We honor this time, and it's not fun. Like, I sat and I cried. I'm like, this is shit. I kind of want to like go socialize, be with people, but I also just really want to honor this. And I know that the day is going to come where I feel like it's time, where I feel ready. And I love that day. And I love reminding myself that that day will come, even through a breakup. Like, you know, when you need long-term healing, I always remind myself, this is just a phase. This is just a season. So can I actually make it enjoyable in some kind of way by being fully present here, and know that the day is going to come sooner or later where I wake up and I'm ready to take on the world and I feel ready to reclaim my power fully. And that just happened to me last weekend. I put my big fur coat on, some boots. I went out and I danced all night. I felt amazing. I made a ton of new friends. And that's because I felt in my power. I felt really good. And it felt like a celebration. Like, I just went through a few weeks of this healing and now I'm back, baby. So not rushing through it and knowing that that day will come, and it'll come in perfect divine timing. And I took this from my new book. So the faster you surrender, the faster you'll move through this phase. So my new book, A Heart Wide Open, I give some metaphors and examples, and this is one that I just love to come back to. So naturally, it is human nature to want to hold on to things, to want to feel that we can control our future, of course. And the thing is, we have the power to manifest any reality we desire, but sometimes there's a greater plan for us beyond what we can even see or even imagine for ourselves. So this just takes a lot of surrender, a lot of trust. And that's always like my affirmation through anything I'm going through: surrender and trust, surrender and trust, surrender and trust. So in this example, and of course, I'll give you guys the show notes after. I love your new book so much. It's been helping me in this phase. Oh, amazing, my love. Yeah, so this is from it. I just wanted to share it because this is basically what I visualize, and I meditate on this all the time. Envisioning that you're floating down a river and you're nervous because you don't know where this river is going. So you begin to try to control and try to escape and grab onto sticks and to stones and, you know, everything. And then you're panicking and you're running out of energy and you're going into the water and you're choking. And as you can imagine, it's just not good. You're panicking in like every way. Your nervous system's all shot. And then there's another version where you're floating down the river and you're just fully surrendering and trusting. You're breathing deeply into your belly. And then you actually notice there's birds around and the sun is shining, and it's actually a beautiful ride down this magical river. And you don't know exactly where it's going, but you're able to fall in love with the unknown, with the feeling that anything is possible from here. And this is the void. And, you know, one time I was at a Tantra workshop from a really amazing teacher. I can't remember his name right now, but really great teacher. And someone asked him, what is the definition of Tantra? And this is the most simple definition I've ever heard, but I just feel like it's, you know, it's life. It's the most simple thing. He just said, push your hands together. Everyone push your hands together. Create tension. Just push, 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 creating tension, and then release it. And that's Tantra. Tantra is the release. Tantra is the path of the least resistance. And for me, I visualize this, like, am I holding on to things? Because the more I hold on, actually, the more painful it's going to be for me. The more I try to control, the more I suffer. Where can I release more in my life right now? Where can I just be present? Where can I look up and see the birds and the sun and realize that everything's going to be okay, one way or another? Even if it doesn't make perfect sense in this moment now, I know that one day it will. Whether it's tomorrow, whether it's 20 years from now, it'll all make sense in the long run. So top priorities during this time: surrender and trust, surrender and trust, surrender and trust. I can't say it enough. And then regulating our nervous systems and creating a safe space for you to just be. So this is self-care. This is prioritizing yourself And while I like to sit in front of the TV and watch Vampire Diaries and eat ramen noodles every day, I also really prioritize my self-care, even though I could just easily do that and not get up from bed and, just distract myself and have my phone off. I still prioritize self-discipline and self-care, because self-discipline is self-love, right? It's a form of self-love. It's not the funnest form, but it's a form of self-love. So sometimes it gets hard to even brush your teeth, but making yourself get up, washing your face every day, just starting with the little things, if you're depending on where you're at, taking a shower daily. Sometimes this rebirthing and moving out of the void is this big thing, like I just shared, that I went through, which is just getting up, dressing up all fun and going out and meeting people and just like coming back, and also holding this self-love challenge that I wasn't really planning on holding at this time. I just woke up. I'm like, I'm back. This is my comeback. It feels so good. I want to connect with my community and I want to support one another. So I feel ready to hold this space for people. I feel like I'm in my power fully right now. But sometimes it's just these gradual little steps rather than just overnight, where you start washing your hair, washing your face, brushing your teeth, the little things each day. And then you start getting back to work, and then you start doing yoga, and you start doing the things that make you feel good. So moving out of the void doesn't have to be overnight. It can just be this gradual, in the little actions each day, and starting to prioritize yourself and your self-care a little bit more each day, and honoring whatever is coming up, opening to the lessons. And if nothing's coming up, you're just feeling blah, honoring that too. And again, not rushing your healing or the level up. I just emphasize that a lot, because it doesn't feel good, as I just shared, when people around you are trying to rush you and you're like, you know what, I'm just not really there yet. So I'm going to be fully present with where I am. So I hope everyone has their journals. And the first thing we're going to journal is finding something that you're certain of and holding on to it. So really using it as an anchor to come back to. So for example, finding something certain, like if you just went through a breakup, like I just did, and it was hard at first. And one thing that I was certain of, no matter how difficult it got, and I knew that that wasn't my king. So once I was so certain that that was not the man for me, it made the healing process easier. And I just kept going back to that. I wrote it down. This isn't my king. So what's the point in replaying things? What's the point in wondering if things could be different? What's the point in going back in whatever way you might go back to the past when you're certain that wasn't for you? So maybe you're certain you are never going back to the way life was before. You're certain of that. So going back to that, and maybe going back to, you are certain or committing to, you're certain that you'll never let someone cross your boundaries again. Maybe you're certain, I will never be dishonest with my own self again. Maybe you're certain, maybe you lost your job and you're certain that you are meant to serve others. And no matter what happens, you're always going to find a way to do that. And maybe if it's a breakup, you know that you're worthy. You're certain that you're worthy of love. You know that you're lovable, even though it's easy to question it, coming back to that certainty, because there's truths that we really know inside of ourselves. We just forget them. Like, we know that we're worthy. We know we're worthy of the job, the career, the love life, the relationships that we desire. That truth is within you. It's just society and the people around you that have made you forget it, and all these distractions that we have. So what are you absolutely certain of right now? So I'll just give you a minute to write anything you're certain of. And even if you question it at times, you're going to come back to this and know it, like know it deep within you. Mm-hmm. Play some music for you if you guys can hear.
Skin My energy is flowing, confidence growing, glow up is loading. When I look in the mirror, I see everything I want and everything I can ever need. I attract success, success I achieve. I attract the beauty and I turn into a queen. I dropped all the bullshit to focus on me. Let go of what hurt me, the things that no longer serve me. I made myself top priority. I let go of the past, I crossed over that bridge. Started loving myself, I know I am not bliss. Everything I have, I am thankful for it. I know that the universe continues to give. I know my worth is expensive like diamonds. I thought of my exes in the streets crying, cause now I am shining like stars in the sky. They held me back, had to tell them goodbye. I saw past all my limits, opened all three of my eyes. From my past, I continue to rise. I know that everything is gonna turn out just fine. I just ask the universe, and the universe supplies. I am protected.
Okay. And once you have that, putting on sticky notes, like I have pink sticky notes I use for everything, and coming back to that, because when we feel uncertain, and that, as we know, that's a quality of the void, feeling uncertain, hold on to the things that you're certain of. Use that as your anchor. When things get confusing, come back to it and know it as a deep truth within yourself. Remember who the fuck you are. So remembering and asking yourself, and again, I'll give you the notes for this and you can journal in your own time, coming back to the amazing things you've accomplished in your life, coming back to how you've helped others, how you've made others feel. How have you made it out of difficult times in the past? Times that you might have at the time even convinced yourself, I'm never going to make it out of this alive. How did you get out of that? What makes you a badass? Like, one thing is that you're here with me right now. That makes you a badass. You're choosing to show up and do this work. That takes courage, right? That makes you a fucking badass. So becoming very clear of what you're bringing to the table and knowing it with certainty. When I think of reclaiming our power and how we give away our power, I envision it like we have these plugs and we're plugging into different sources. So what are you plugging into at this time? Think about it for a moment. What and who are you plugging into? So you can plug into, I don't really like to use this word, but you could plug into that fuck boy who lied to you and led you on, or you can plug into, you know, that boss that said that thing you didn't like and you've been replaying it in your head. Or you can plug into that boss babe who has this really empowering podcast. You know, you can choose where you're plugging into. And I love to visualize that because we tend to give our power away to different sources and not realize it. So what are you plugging into at this time? And who are you plugging into? So journaling for a moment. Where have you been plugging into, especially if you're in the void right now? What's been taking your focus, your energy, and your power? And then who and what are you going to start plugging into starting today? So right now you're plugging into me, and I'm very honored for that. I am, you know, an online teacher that isn't one who ever pushes anyone to buy my programs or anything like that, or even follow me. I feel that if I empower you, if I'm adding to your power and allowing you to reclaim your power more, then you'll be drawn to me and you'll be here with me. And I really just trust in that process. So if I was ever not empowering someone by my presence, which happens, you know, on Instagram and things, people have shared that with me, then I don't want them there. You know, like we have to be very intentional with what we're plugging into and who we're plugging into. So I'll give you 2 minutes, just writing who you've been plugging into, what you've been plugging into, and what you're going to begin plugging into. And if you don't have a lot to plug into, then also making a note that after this workshop, spending some time researching new people that you want to plug into their world, to really drop into their world. spending some time at that. And of course, you can come back to it after as well. And in the same way, who are you allowing to plug into you? So also reflecting on that. Where are you overgiving and feeling drained and not getting much in return? And how can you protect your energy and your power more moving forward? So these are all things to reflect on and dance in the ashes of what your life used to be. So when I was in the void earlier this year, I was like, this sucks. When am I going to get out of this void? As we do. And then I just finally learned full surrender, which was where I found pleasure in the process. But before that, there was resistance. There was me trying to grasp onto things, floating down the river. Like, what is this? I just want to be like right here, right now, but I'm over here. And then I realized, can I just have a really good fucking time right here and now? Can I dance in the ashes of what my life used to be before I know what it's going to be from here? Can I have a really, really good time here? Like, it's gone already. You know, you lost the relationship, the career, whatever it may be, or something didn't manifest, whatever the situation is, right? That landed you here in this beautiful space, this sacred space of pure potentiality, of pure changes coming, evolution, but it's just not quite there yet. So can you actually just fully enjoy this here and now? Why not make it the best thing that's ever happened to me? And that's a really powerful thing to ask yourself when you're in the void. So how is this the best thing that has ever happened to you? And honestly, the first time I asked myself this, I was just angry. I'm like, this is not the best thing that's ever happened to me. I don't want to write this. I don't want to journal this. But I think the first time I ever answered this question, and I'm all about journal prompts, as you know, I've published 2 journals with just a ton of prompts that you can get on Amazon. Like, I just love asking self-reflective questions because I believe that self-discovery is the first step to self-love. Knowing yourself deeply is how you learn to appreciate yourself and love yourself. So the first time I answered this, it was at the start of the pandemic, actually, and I had to come home to my hometown. And I am not a fan of my hometown. I left it as quickly as I could in Canada. And all of a sudden I'm 31 and I have to come back, and I just felt really powerless. And I was just angry about being back in this small town that I didn't love. And I wrote that down. How is this the best thing? How is coming back? It's called Kamloops. How is coming back to Kamloops the best thing that's ever happened to me? And at first that triggered me. I was like, this is not, and I feel angry at this question, but I just made myself answer it. And once I made myself answer it, it started flowing, like all of these things, why this was the best thing that's ever happened to me. So writing in your journal now, how is this the best thing that's ever happened to you? If it's a breakup, you know, I ask myself this with any change that's difficult for me. Well, I lost my ear. So I ask myself this anytime there's been a major change. And sometimes I surprise myself with what I come up with. If it's, you know, a breakup, like, this is the best thing ever because that means that my king is out in the world right now. That's so exciting. Like, I can meet him tomorrow when I'm walking my dog or doing something crazy and I run into him like in this beautiful moment. Like, the unknown ahead of us is so exciting and so beautiful because that is the space of pure potentiality of the void. Maybe it's the best thing that happened to you because now you get to focus on yourself. So I'll give you 2 minutes again for this journaling. And of course, we can come back to it after this workshop. But how is this the best thing that has ever happened to you? And how are you going to make it the best thing? And just allow the words to flow. Not thinking about it too much. Just let it come through. So just finishing up your thoughts. And again, welcoming you to come back to this later on your own time and really sitting with these questions, meditating on them, really opening to them without any expectation. So from here, understand that something better is coming for you. And everything is working in your favor for your highest good, for the good of all. I deeply, deeply believe that everything's happening for our personal evolution, even when it doesn't seem like it at all. Like I have this deep, deep trust within myself and within the universe. And that's what really gets me through the difficult times. It's that surrender and trust again. I can say it so many times, but really that's where it comes from. And somehow, some way, your soul chose to be on this planet at this time. Like, I believe that. I don't think we're just victims of this existence and we somehow coincidentally like ended up in this world together. Like, even being here, listening to what I'm sharing, I really believe our souls were called together for a purpose. And whether you know what that is right now, why you've come into my world, or maybe in 10 years, something I said will change the outcome of your life, or whatever it may be, I believe that everything's happening as it should. And there's a purpose why souls come together. There's a purpose why souls leave one another as well. So really trusting that and knowing that you can choose to live your most pleasurable life right now, right here and now, no matter what you're going through. And that's the true power. That's what being powerful is. Our perspective is everything. So if we just have a perspective shift, then we can have a life of ecstasy, even in the mundane things. Our suffering is coming from our attachment to outcomes, to expectations, our attachment to the past that's already gone. Again, floating down that river, coming back to reclaiming our power is actually letting go and trusting. And then this question I've shared, I think in our money mindset workshop, but I just like to share it again because I think it's so powerful. So writing it in your journal and sitting with this afterwards, what are you making this mean? So whatever it is, what are you making it mean? So for example, breakup, what are you making this mean? Are you making it mean that you're unlovable? Are you making it mean that there's no good men in the world? What are the stories that you're telling yourself around this situation? What are you making it mean? Because we're really good at making things mean things that they actually don't. And in the big picture, they don't mean much. In a year from now, in 5 years from now, you'll probably be laughing about the thing, right? So what are you making this mean? And when we reflect on that question, we can then set affirmations to rewrite the stories in our mind and reprogram our subconscious with more empowering stories around the situation. If you're making it mean that you are unlovable, then start telling yourself every day, I am lovable. I'm so lovable, so lovable. And here we have the collapse, the void, and then the reclamation. So we are reclaiming our power. We're remembering who we are, and we're reclaiming our throne. Stake claim to your throne because no one else is going to give it to you, right? So this is the rebirth. And again, not rushing it, but when you're ready, when you're there, be fully there, releasing the past. Like I literally like to envision that I just showed up to this forest. There was a show I watched as a child. I forget what it was called, but basically this lady shows up in the forest. There's all these forest creatures and she just decides that she's like queen of this community. And it's like, that's what you just have to decide. You're empress of the void. Claim your throne. Self-proclaimed empress of the world. That's what I have a tattoo on me. When I went through initiation, I self-initiated myself with some girlfriends of mine. And I just said, this is when I decided that I'm empress of the universe, of the world. and I can be whatever I want to be. So why not? Thank you. I need to go now. Listen to the replay. Okay, love. Thank you so much for joining. We're almost done as well. So stake claim to your throne. Crown yourself because no one else is going to do it. Wear your invisible crown or wear an actual crown and get clear on the new standards of your life. What are you accepting and what are you absolutely not accepting? So again, spending some time journaling this afterwards and making a declaration of your new commitments, where you're going from here. And if you're still in the void and you're not fully ready for, your comeback yet, this is a great time to reflect on questions like this. Moving forward, when you're ready, what are you accepting? What are you absolutely not accepting? What have you learned here? What standards are you setting and how will you hold those standards moving forward? And a big part of this as well is forgiving and releasing past versions of ourselves. Releasing anything that's heavy. And, in this program, I share a lot of releasing ceremonies and practices that we can use. So you can always come back to those too. I'm constantly doing releasing practices. So you have the power to choose a new life for yourself. And knowing that is your true power. Really knowing that you have the power to create whatever you desire from here. That's the void, the space of pure potentiality. And it's an exciting place to be. And stop reacting to the external world. So knowing who you are, and this is the space where you really get to know who you are and be so certain of that. Again, coming back to what is certain. So you're not reacting to how someone treated you or to a loss you experienced or whatever it may be right now, rather than reacting to it, really meditating on feeling, how can I cultivate the things that I'm desiring from the external world, from within myself? So whatever you're seeking externally that didn't work out or you're not there yet, how can you really build that within yourself right here and now? What actions do you need to take in order to do that? And seeing the big picture, holding the standard isn't always easy, but it's worth it and you're worth it. So what I mean by that is, if, again, I don't like using this word, but I don't know what else to call it, but if you're trying to give up that fuckboy or the toxic relationship, it's not easy. Like, we go back to it. And if for me, I used to always choose unavailable men, ones that were not willing to give me the love that I know that I deserve. And that was from my childhood trauma. So naturally, I still am attracted to these men. I still want to go for them. But over time, I just really learned my worth. And I also learned that it's not worth it. It's not worth going back. It's not worth how I feel afterwards. And it's not worth the effect that it has on my mental health, on my career, on my life in general, on my energy. And I really value my life and my energy and my time. And I believe in my worth. So I'm holding this standard, even though it'd be really easy to just go back to that person or to go for that guy that, I feel attracted to, right? But that would just be momentarily, pleasure, whatever it is. And then I'd be going through the same patterns that I used to go through. So holding the standard is by no means easy. Whatever changes, that needs to take place, it sucks at times because it's always easy to just go back to an old pattern. But we're creating this new pathway. And over time, the more you say no and the more you hold the standard and, really communicate that boundary and honor that boundary, then it gets easier every time. And I say that from experience. At first, it's like, oh, what the hell? Like, why am I doing this? And then it got a little bit easier. Now it's like, no, I absolutely know that's not the thing for me. That is not going to serve my highest purpose here. That's not going to serve my pleasure, my bliss. That's not going to serve me feeling good. And I deserve to feel good. So no, there's just no chance that's even happening. And sometimes we fall back. That's okay too. Forgiving ourselves and just coming back to alignment. and remembering the law of rhythm. So there's seasons of our lives. We're never stuck in one spot, in one phase, in one emotion. We're always moving. So if today is a little dark for you, if it's hard, if you're struggling, tomorrow's another day. I know you've heard it, but we go through these different phases. There's lessons in them all. They're all sacred in their own ways. Releasing that feeling that you're stuck there, surrendering and trusting, and knowing that whether it's in a day or a few days, you're going to wake up and feel differently. And that's just the law of the universe, right? We're never stuck. We're always changing. We're always evolving. Sometimes it feels like that, but there's a new season, just like, you know, the seasons and elements of our world, right? Winter is a time for rest. Winter would be the void, a time for reflection, a time to go inward and just to rest and be present. And then summer is a time to be alive, to socialize, to share our gifts with the world. So honoring that we go through these different seasons as well. Every phase of our lives is sacred in their own ways. Don't fight the seasons, embrace them, and know you're always moving, always growing, and always flowing. Yes. Thank you, my loves. Thank you so much for joining me for this masterclass. I hope some of that landed for you. If you have anything to share, you can also just put it in the chat if you'd like. Yeah, and I hope that just some of that felt alive for you. Some of you are in it right now. And yeah, I think just being present with it, there's gifts in every single phase of our lives, even sometimes when it doesn't feel like it. So if you have any questions before I go offline, just giving you opportunity now, or of course you can just ask me in our Telegram group as well. And just inviting you to sit with these reflections. I'll upload the video right away, and then you'll have the show notes so you can print them off or just go over them if you'd like and spend some more time journaling and reflecting on these questions. Thank you so much. We love and appreciate your message and wisdom. Together we rise. Yes, together we rise higher, baby. I love it. Thank you so much for joining me, loves. I really appreciate your presence here. And yeah, again, we are in this together. So whatever you're going through, knowing that you always have our group chat as well. I know it can feel vulnerable at times, but we're here to support. It's just a very safe space to share whatever you're moving through and just receive the sisterly love in return.